Hello, everybody. So I was asked recently by a young NCO what the best style of leadership to have is and what style of leadership I gravitated towards. And my answer to them is the best style of leadership is really a blend of all the leadership styles, because each leadership style has its strengths and weaknesses. So you have to use whatever leadership style is the best for the situation at hand or the person that you're trying to lead. If you limit yourself to one or two leadership styles, then you're also limiting yourself to a very small sphere of influence, right? So we want to influence a lot of people. We have to be able to adapt and adjust to the people that we're leading. Personally, I like to call my leadership style is compassionate leadership. And what I mean by that is I don't mean giving out hugs or coddling people. That's not the type of compassionate leadership I'm talking about. It's like when we talk about in the Marine Corps, we talk about troop welfare, and everybody thinks that's whoa, we're giving people time off, or we're handing out mouth hugs and stuff like that. And no, that's not the case. What it is troop welfare. The best troop welfare I can give my troops is to take them to combat and bring them back alive. So sometimes troop welfare means that I'm dragging them through the dirt to complete exhaustion every day, training them to make sure that they come back alive, right? So what I mean by compassionate leadership is that I am thinking about the human element every time I make a decision, right? I understand that each and every single one of my decisions has an impact on somebody's life. And to give you some examples of some compassionate leadership that I've had in the past. So I was given command of a provisional rifle platoon. And what that means is we were a rifle platoon. We had the same mission as every other rifle platoon. However, I was only given 5 infantry Marines, and the rest of my platoon was made of cooks, admin people, supply, motor T, and comms Marines. And we're out doing our training, doing our drills, and I had a young Marine who he just didn't get it, right? He couldn't do the IA drills, he couldn't do the battle drills, and the NCOs, who happen to mainly be the infantry Marines, were just blasting this Marine. I mean, they're beating him up, screaming at him, yelling at him, making him go back, do it again, do it again. And you could tell the Marine, he wasn't going to get it, and he was completely frustrated. And it just got worse, right? The more stress he got, the worse he became. So I pulled the Marine over. I asked him what his primary MOS was, and he said he was a comms Marine. So I told him, oh, good. I need an RTO in the platoon. So he's my new RTO, and his job is to be my battle buddy, so he needs to stay tight to me. And during IA drills and battle drills, he needs to imitate everything that I do. And that was not a problem for him, right? So he manned the radio. He followed me around. When I got up, he got up. When I got down, he got down, and there was no problem. So he was employed to his best capabilities. He was happy and content, and my NCOs learned something that day, right? Same platoon, so when we talk about taking ownership for what we do in our platoons or our companies or whatever, as a leader, everything that happens I'm responsible for, right? So we were out training at a range, and I mean, we probably did that range 12 times that day for practice. And the company commander wanted to come out and evaluate training at the end of the day, so I told him, hey sir, we're ready. Come on out, evaluate training. It was the worst run we had all day long. Like, it was worse than the first run that we did that day. And I was frustrated. I came back, calmed myself a little bit. Instead of taking it out on the platoon, I basically got him in a school circle, and I explained to him it's my fault, right? It's my fault. They weren't ready. I failed to train them. Maybe I've lost my ability to train Marines, and maybe that I should go out and find, some employment elsewhere. When I walked away, my platoon sergeant came up running after me and told me, he's like, I wish you would have told me you were going to do that. He's like, the Marines were crying because they let me down, right? Because I inspired them. Because I wasn't barking at them, I inspired them. They wanted to work for me. And they're like, hey, I let Staff Sergeant LeGrand down, and we can't be doing this, right? We went out and did another run, and it was nearly flawless, right? So, and this is just as in the Marine Corps, right? So when I got out of the Marine Corps, I worked for a Fortune 100 company, right? These guys earn like $13 billion a year as a shift supervisor. And, one of the things I got put, because of my leadership experience, I got put on the third shift with most of the misfits and stuff like that, so the inexperienced people and, the people that first and second shift didn't want, that's where third shift goes. I was like, that's fine. I've got no support from higher, right? I've got no HR, I got no logistics. We have to do everything ourselves. I was like, that's cool, I'm used to that, right? So here we are. I've got a couple operators that they're not producing like they should, right? Or not producing like everybody else thinks they should. And they've been written up a couple times not by supervisors on the shift that I'm on, but by supervisors in other shifts and my current boss, right? And they've been put on notice. So they still haven't picked up their production. They wanted me to go basically fire them. And I was like, well, hold on. I want to observe what they're doing. So covertly, right, I observed them. I didn't want them to see what I was doing, because if they did, then, they might perform above and beyond just because I'm there. So, from a distance, I observed them for a couple days, and I found that a lot of their equipment was breaking down, right? So their production was lower than it should be. Now, these same machines weren't assigned during the other shifts, so no one else really seen that these machines would break down frequently. But one of the things that really bothered me is that they would just sit, when their machines would break down, instead of getting them repaired right away or anything like that, they would just sit down on them. And the reason being is because they had explained many times that their machines were breaking to hire, and no one cared, right? No one cared because no one was walking around, right? No one was walking around observing what was going on, right? Leadership by walking around and getting to know your people, right? So they just write them up, and so these people, they didn't want to work for them, right? So they did the bare minimum. And so I was like, okay, we had a discussion, talked about, hey, your production needs to go up. I see that your machines are breaking down, that's why your numbers are low. I'm going to go to hire and tell them what the heck is going on here, and I need you to tell me what you need for me to be successful, right? Come up with a game plan, because you've been working here for a while and I'm brand new, but come up with a game plan and tell me what you need from me. Sure enough, every time these guys had a machine that went down after that, they would track me down in the plant, seek me out to get assigned to a new machine. So instead of just sitting down and doing nothing, they would get assigned to a new machine, because they knew they had a leader that went out of their way to help them out and protect them, right? So they didn't want to work for the leaders before, but they wanted to work for me, and they actually cared about their production, and we had no problems after that, right? And the same company, right, I had a lady, so I implemented something that every week during our first startup meeting of the week, I would pull the numbers. I'd come in a little bit early, I'd pull the numbers from the week prior, and I would recognize publicly in front of everybody else the top performers from the previous week. I had a lady that consistently outperformed everybody. Like, it wasn't that she just had performed great this one week. Like, it was consistently told to me, even prior, when I started on there, that she was one of the best performers. So that very first day, our first startup meeting, I brought her up there, told her she's doing a great job, and, I appreciate everything that she's doing and all that. And she teared up and said it was the first time in her 26 years working there that anybody had recognized her for her work. 26 years. I found that ridiculous. ridiculous. And so I was like, oh, we're stepping this up, right? Because if this is the climate that this company has fostered, right, we're going to step this up. So I started giving out letters of appreciation once a month as well. Now, this lady, I had to tell her, after a few weeks, I had to pull her off to the side and be like, hey, I can't recognize you every week because you are the top performer in your section every single week. So I kind of had to skewer the parameters around so I could keep morale high within the section. But I did tell her off to the side that she was still the top performer every single week, right? So, but I'd have to say, hey, this person was the most improved from the week prior. This person had the least defects or something like that. I'd have to skew it a little bit for that section because I needed to keep the morale up and keep everybody producing. But everyone's production increased because I showed that I cared about them. In fact, it got to the point that third shift, all the misfits, all the people that, no one else wanted, and the most junior, like the average number of years worked there for my employees was about a year or less. They were outperforming first shift, which had like an average time working there 15 to 20 years, right? So, because they cared to work for a compassionate leader that cared about them, right? So again, it just goes to being out there, knowing your people, showing that you care, standing up for them, and holding them to a standard, right? So I told them I'm not going to let them fall off, right? But we are going to pick this up. We are going to pick this up. So, all right, so our veteran spotlight for this week. I got another blade company. Andrew Holstein sent me this one. I didn't know this one was out there. So this one is, our veteran is Rustin Shaw. So Shaw is a alum of 3rd Battalion 5th Marines with Andrew and I, and he has Poor Boy blades, and I've never seen the blades, but they look really nice. Andrew says he has a few of them. He uses them in the kitchen, and they're his go-to blades. So go check them out. I mean, I'll put the website in the description. They look phenomenal, and they're reasonably priced. And again, you're supporting veterans. So go out there and lead people, take care of people, be kind to people, and let's fucking go.